into the future where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So, have you heard of this veterans organization that have been accusing the NFL of a bit of a double standard when it comes to the idea of free speech, Travis Golightly?
I have not, but you've piqued my curiosity.
Well, it's a service organization. They represent 20 million U.S. military veterans. And they're accusing the NFL of what they're calling corporate sponsorship. You ever heard of this idea?
No, I have not.
So, this is where it gets a little dicey and interesting. They said the NFL refused to run an ad that featured the phrase hashtag please stand along with a picture of service members holding up an American flag.
Yeah, this one's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. They basically want to spend advertising dollars running a spot during what one can only assume is going to be the biggest game of the year. Like, they managed to pony up enough cash to buy a commercial spot during the most prime of times when it comes to buying advertising. And the NFL was like, yeah, no, we're not going to be doing that. We're not going to run the commercial that says hashtag please stand. So they wrote an open letter to Roger Goodell. They're called the American Veterans National Commander the American Veterans National Commander. A guy called Marion Polk addressed this letter to NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. He said that the league invited his organization to publish an ad in the Super Bowl. Yeah, which is great. Here's the thing. I don't know if they were asking for the full whack in terms of a dollar amount, but nevertheless, it seemed like they had an agreement. Then, not so much because of the two-word message. They said, Mr. Goodell, veterans are good for more than just military flyovers, photo opportunities during halftime, or props to sell camouflage-style NFL apparel. I always wonder about that. Sort of like the military appreciation aspect of sporting events when they wear camo. I know a lot of folks that feel as though wearing camo is kind of... It doesn't go as far as that expression stolen valor, but it's sort of an appropriation of something that some military folks see as not being cool. Have you ever run into that, Travis?
I've heard that it's one of those topics that some people care about and some don't. And don't get me wrong, I understand in a way where they're coming from about, the whole camo thing, but camo's kind of been around for a while and a lot more than just military wear it. So the logical side of me is like, what are people so upset about in the first place? But in the same sense, I understand what they're talking about.
Well, I wear camo pants or camo cutoffs almost religiously, and there's a reason for that. Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, you might have noticed if you spent any time around me. They are my go-to. First and foremost, for a very long time, I was doing a job that involved me getting demo CDs from a lot of guys in a lot of bands, and I noticed something. The big pockets that came in the side of sort of like military style pants were just enough to stuff like 3 or 4 CDs into, because you don't want to be walking around with a handful of compact discs in those cumbersome, uncomfortable to hold, just too large to have it be natural things known as CDs. God, by the way, who else is glad to see the back of those things? Like CDs, DVDs, these easily scratched, easily damaged, cumbersome things that they were the absolute worst. But because when a guy in a band wants to hand you some music, the easiest way to do that is still a CD. I was getting tons of CDs. So I had these like camo cut off pants that I was wearing all the time. And I remember somebody telling me, "Are you sure that's cool?" I was like, huh, you might have a very valid point. I didn't give that any thought.
I'm not going to lie to you. I needed a new pair of shoes for the gym, and I was looking on Amazon, and it just popped up as like this deal. And you'll kind of make fun of me here. They looked awesome. And I'm like, dude, I'm totally buying those. So I got them, and they came in my new, I was so excited, my brand new shoes. And I took them out of the bag, and I was like, huh. And it just dawned on me for the first time ever. I'm like, are Pumas cool? Like, is this a cool brand? I don't know. And I mentioned it to somebody on the tugboat. I was like, dude, like, am I going to get made fun of for wearing Pumas? And he looked at me and he goes, yeah, probably. And I was like, are you serious? I'm like, are the kids at the gym not going to think I'm cool? He's like, Pumas? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, they're probably going to think you're a loser. I was like, really? I had no idea. I was like really worried about it. And then somebody else was like, dude, Pumas are cool. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think the guy was messing with you. Pumas are totally cool, but
are they cool? I didn't know.
Yeah. You know, there's as a
my
sneakerhead,
Pumas are your camo pants.
As a sneakerhead, I could tell you long stories about Puma and the family divide between the makers of Puma and the makers of Adidas, but that is a story for a different time. I like camo pants for two reasons. One, like I said, it's easy to stuff CDs into your pockets. Two,
it's easy to hide. Well, I'm joking. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm a slob, and as such, I tend to drop a lot of food when I'm eating. There's a reason why Millhouse, my puppy, positions himself below me every single time and just waits patiently for what he knows is coming at my feet every single time I have dinner. I make a mess. And so wearing camo pants is a good way to hide the fact that there are numerous Chinese food stains on me at any given time. So that was useful. But someone was like, are you sure that's cool? And I was like, I don't know. So I asked a veteran buddy of mine, and he was like, what? That's ridiculous. It's fine. He was like, but to be honest with you, there might be some really hardcore types that if you were to dress in more than one item of camo, it wouldn't be cool. Anyways, that was our small off-ramp into whether or not it's appropriate to wear camo, but we'll get into exactly what this veterans organization is saying about Roger Goodell when they alert him to the fact that free speech is a two-way street.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So here's the deal. This veterans organization has accused the NFL of refusing to run a Please Stand ad. In a scathing letter from the American Veterans National Commander Marion Polk, addressed directly to NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, Polk says the league invited his organization, known as AMVETS for short, to publish an ad in the Super Bowl program. But Goodell's staff refused to publish our ad because of its simple two-word message. Mr. Goodell, veterans are good for more than just military flyovers, photo opportunities during halftime, or props to sell camouflage-style NFL apparel. The NFL's stance on not allowing veterans an unfiltered voice to be heard says otherwise. He said that both NBA Commissioner Adam Silver and NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman have allowed the exact same ad to run in game programs in their respective leagues. Well, that's because there's no heat on them. It hasn't. I don't know why it hasn't sort of corrupted the enjoyment of other sports the same way it has with football. I think the whole thing probably started off with Colin Kaepernick, but I haven't heard too much brouhaha about this. And when people have decided to take a knee in baseball and basketball and things of that nature, really, it's been much ado about nothing. Nobody really paid attention. It's all been the focus on football. So you got the commissioners of these other leagues that can do something like that because there is no controversy. There is no difficult situation to be put in. By the way, I'm not sympathizing with the NFL on this one. Far from it. I think it's ridiculous how they suddenly decided to grow a conscience and allow football players free speech. This is a league that regularly penalizes football players for doing things like wearing an eye black with pink bows on it to support breast cancer research. There have been numerous players who have been fined thousands of dollars for wearing something that is not regulation because they want to show their support for a mother who had passed away from breast cancer or breast cancer in general. And you know what? When that happens, the whole notion of free speech is nowhere to be seen in the NFL. So yeah, this thing where they all of a sudden last minute discovered a conscience and decided freedom of speech was a great thing and really important, it's just because they're in a really freaking difficult spot. Freedom of speech works both ways, Polk wrote. We respect the rights of those who choose to protest, as these rights are precisely what our members have fought and in many cases died for. Powerful stuff. But imposing corporate censorship to deny that same right to those veterans who have secured it for all of us is reprehensible and totally beyond the pale. He said AMVETS will not tolerate the league refusing veterans the right to free speech. And you know what? He's got a point. Here's the thing, though. Here's the ugly part of it. Travis, basically, the NFL, Roger Goodell, reached out to these folks and said, would you like to run an ad in the Super Bowl program? And they said, yes, we would. Here it is. And it included that hashtag, please stand. And the NFL went, nah, we're not going to let you do that. Is it their right in this free market economy in which we live to make a decision about what they think is cool and what they think isn't? Or does this come down to an issue of free speech?
I think legally they have the right, obviously to make that decision. I think they're idiots for doing it. And so, I mean, it's one of those things, just like you said, why now? Why didn't you care when it was dropping your ratings? Why didn't you care when people were getting mad about it? Why didn't you care when they were taking a knee? If nothing else, say, you know what? We're not dealing with this. Even if we're not going to tell you can't do it, stay in the locker room. Stay in the locker room and don't show people your disrespect for this country. So now all of a sudden they want to take the high road and avoid the controversy. That's ironic right there.
Also, the hashtag isn't hashtag if you don't stand, you hate America, or
exactly.
Hashtag get out, or hashtag you don't deserve to be here, or hashtag you don't appreciate our sacrifice. You know what the hashtag includes? It includes a word that I like a lot. It's very polite. It's a hashtag of the word please. Please stand. Not you must stand, not you have to stand, but hey, we're veterans. Please stand. Man, if that doesn't motivate you,
yeah, no kidding. No kidding. It's one of those things. It's interesting. A lot of people, I believe you were talking, it's funny because you're talking about the other leagues. I believe the NBA has a policy against making some sort of political statement during the national anthem. I believe I saw a story that they strictly prohibit it. Mm-hmm. So, the whole idea that the NFL can't do it or won't, it's just that they won't do it. The NHL, I think those guys just want to play hockey. I mean, it's just one of those things. So, the NFL is just, I hate them. I really do. I just think it's a crap organization. Why would you reach out to these guys with a very, very polite message and then try and make a political statement? I don't get it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. The NFL reached out to this veterans organization by the sounds of things. It looks like the NFL was looking to do a little bit of damage control going into the biggest football game of the year. The veterans said, hey, great, thank you very much. Could you, if you're going to offer us a little bit of space, can you run this ad? And they went, ooh, not that ad. What else do you got? And yeah. Because if you're going to go in on this thing, go all the way. And look, you and I have talked about this a little bit in the past. Taking a knee, I would never do. If I was a football player, I would never take a knee for two important reasons. Reason number one, it doesn't seem to be working. If people were taking a knee and it was making folks go, I never thought about it from their perspective, perhaps I can open my mind to what's going on and think about it some, that would be good. But no, this has made people that maybe never even thought about the idea of racism or inequality go, what? How dare that spoiled athlete get down on one knee? Well, I'm just trying to watch a football game and get away from politics. You know what? There is no racism. There is no inequality. Don't know what America they're living in, but must be a different one to me. You've heard that. You've heard people double down on the denial of racism and inequality as a reaction to that. And that's not working. So I wouldn't do it for A, the simple reason that it doesn't seem to be working. B, I wouldn't do it because, look, not all veterans are very divided on this idea. Veterans have said this is an absolute act of disrespect and you are completely belittling the sacrifice that we and people who have lost their lives have made for your freedom. And then there are veterans who say, you know what? Whether or not we like it, this is exactly what we fought for. This is exactly what we put our lives on the line for. And therefore, go ahead and do it. This is why we fought for freedom. It includes the freedom to have a voice and have an opinion in a public forum. So it's a divided thing, but for the segment of the veteran society that it did desperately offend, I'd never want to do that. I'd find a different way. And I know I'm not offering up the solution of what that different way is, but I would find a different way because A, it doesn't seem to be working. B, it's pushing people further apart rather than bringing them together. And this is important stuff. Inequality is real. Racism is real. And if this was doing something to help, I would be all for it. But sadly, it seems to be doing more harm than good. Bigots won't be easy to reach, and you have to try. And you have to try and change them. But there's going to be a few false starts, and this, I think, has been one of them.
more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950. Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on.
So I have this little harebrained theory, this strange notion, and go with me for a second on this one. It's going to sound like I'm blowing things completely out of proportion, but I think that texting is leading to the degradation of the fabric of our society. I really do. You want to know why, Travis?
I do want to know why, because I think I might agree with you.
Oh, yeah? How so? What do you feel?
Well, I agree with you, like, just the way that you're talking about it. I know there's more to your opinion than that, and that's where I really can't wait to see where you go with this, because I do text message. I do, but I hate it the same way that I love it. Like, I love that I can just drop a text and I don't have to engage in this long conversation as if I had called somebody. Like, half the time, if I have to call somebody, I'll be like, hey, I just got a second. I was just wondering, is it okay if I do this? And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. I'm like, okay, bye. And I'll hang up. Like, text message saves me from having to do that.
Yeah.
But
do you get offended? Do you get offended when somebody calls you instead of texting you first?
No. Oh, God, no.
See, literally every time my phone rings, I don't even have, well, I guess I am then. Because like literally every time my phone rings, my first response is like, what the hell did they want? And this is before I've even looked at the caller ID to see who the hell it is that's calling me. But I'm always like, you know what I think it is? I think part of it is because these are mostly business people that are calling me, work folks.
Wow. Yeah.
And even if you're just my friend, you know I spend the vast majority of my life in front of a microphone that is switched on. And there's a very good chance that I can't pick up. But if you text me, I'll text you back and we'll discuss a time when we can talk. But, you know, in the middle of it, and also it's my stupidity because some of the time I forget to mute my phone. And then just like that, you know, some record label rep that's trying to get me to spin the new Rise Against record winds up on the air. Oh, Tony says hello, by the way.
What's up, Tony?
Some Rise Against rep that is trying to get me to spin their new record winds up on the air because I forgot to mute my phone and I feel like a dumbass because of it. But it's not that. The thing that I think with text messaging that is contributing to the degradation of our society has to do with the fact that it is destroying our ability to think on our feet. Not necessarily us, but for generations to come. And we'll get into that a little later on in the show. But you know what? With every new form of communication, there's always a bit of a wrinkle, as Jerry Seinfeld pointed out when we first got call waiting.
Call the operator to get the call waiting thing. I like that. But I love that thing. You hit the button, they give you a new person. The other person's still there, sealed inside the call waiting isolation chamber. There's nothing they can do. Only you can get them out. You ever see people on call waiting? It's like their soul has left their body. They're just sitting there. Are you on the phone? Are you using the phone? I am using it. I don't know. I heard a click. He's going to come back. I have to wait here, please. I think the ultimate phone accessory would be if they could come up with some sort of call waiting immune system that prevents people from putting you on call waiting. In other words, they attach a thing to your phone, then people hit that button and you go, I'm still here, Fred. I've got call waiting kryptonite. Now take your hand away from that button and listen to what I have to say.
Absolutely classic. And you know what? Every single time we get a new form of technology, there's a new sociological wrinkle that comes with it. And we'll discuss exactly what that sociological wrinkle is with texting and messaging. Basically anything that you have to do, any means of communication where you don't have to talk. I think there's a problem with that. And I'll share with you what that is a little later on. Right now, though, Travis Golightly, let's take a look at what's going on in the news.
The Screen Actors Guild Awards were held on Sunday night.
Yeah. If you are interested to know who won, then, well, you need to get a hobby.
Kim Kardashian and Kanye West named their baby girl Chicago.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, he's from Chicago, isn't he? I guess that's...
Oh, I don't know. Is he from Chicago?
Yeah, he is. Chicago. Here, I'll use it in a sentence. Barely a week old, Chicago already hates her parents for giving her such a stupid name. I think they're calling her Shy. Is it? No,
I saw that. Yes,
that is also not good. That's yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll use it in another sentence. Oh, look, there's Chicago West getting her ass kicked on the playground. Again, go on.
Kim Kardashian says that her 2-year-old son, Saint, already knows how to spell gargantuan.
That's gargantuan. That's an interesting name for a 2-year-old. A word for a 2-year-old to pick up. I mean, it's impressive to be able to spell that at age 2. It's even more impressive that you know it. I guess he was looking gargantuan. He probably stumbled across it while trying to find ways to describe his father's ego and his mother's ass. Go on.
Kris Jenner's 1956 Ford Thunderbird sold for $57,000 at an auction in Arizona.
There's a lot of Kardashian news at the moment.
I know.
Interesting. Yeah. 57 Ford Thunderbird. Yeah, the car has 50. It's an impressive car. I actually looked at it. The car has a lot in common with Kris Jenner too. Both have had a lot of body work done and have been providing rides to various men for decades and decades. Continue.
A convicted drug dealer claims that he supplied steroids to Mark Wahlberg.
All right, what do you think? Like, I think isn't this, you're part of the kind of bodybuilding zeitgeist. You go to the gym, you're familiar with, I think you've asked me once or twice without any irony because you were in so early on the phrase, do you even lift, bro?
I remember when you told me that you at one time were like in the gym all the time, and I was like, do you even lift, bro? Like, yeah. I just didn't know that you were a gym guy. I mean, there's nothing. You have a beautiful, tight little body. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But
uncomfortable.
Awkward.
No, you know what?
No.
It's interesting because, all right, I got into gym stuff for. I think I might have told you about this in the past. I do not go to the gym. When I do go to the gym, I do not go for the reason that the vast majority of the rest of us go to the gym. I go to the gym because my shrink prescribed it to me for years and years. My entire life, I don't even like to say struggled with or battled, just because everybody's got it. Millions of people deal with it, and it's time that we kind of normalize this as part of the situation. And using struggled or battled in reference to depression is not necessarily doing that. So I have had depression my entire life since I was a kid. And I remember going to my shrink several years ago, and he was like, okay, you are definitely depressed. Medically speaking, you got depression. You've wondered this your entire life. You are classic in everything that you're exhibiting. You're depressed. There you go. I'm like, okay, well, I don't like that. What can I do about it? How can I maybe get it under control? I mean, you can never make it go away, but there are things you can do to kind of head it off at the pass. Or when you deal with it, there's stuff that you can do. He's like, well, I can do one of two things. One, you can go to the gym, or two, I can medicate you. I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, if you can go. He was like, I would advise that anybody that is depressed, before I give them medication, I would advise that they go to the gym. Now, the problem is most people cannot get themselves off the couch or out of bed, or they just can't pick themselves up and get themselves to a gym, hence the medication. But if you go to the gym, if you exercise to the point of getting your heart rate up and sweating a few times a week, preferably every day, for at least 20 minutes a day, that releases a lot of the same chemicals in your brain that you're going to find in prescription depression medication like SSRI inhibitors, or serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So either go to the gym or I can medicate you. Now, I would recommend the gym. And I was like, why? Because it's non-chemical? He's like, well, here's the thing. Medication might change your personality. I was like, really? And he was like, I've heard you on the radio. It would be a bad thing if your personality changed, right? I was like, yeah, honestly, personality is sort of what pays my mortgage. I don't kind of want to mess with that. It's sort of the money maker. That's, my bread and butter, what I use to survive. And he's like, yeah, then I'm going to send you to the gym. So I went to the gym. I was able to crowbar my ass off the couch and out of bed and get in there. And I can't tell you how much of a difference it made, and nor can I explain how quickly it made a difference. Like, the physical changes didn't come for some time, as they don't, but the mental changes, the clearing of the mental fog, the brightness of my outlook changed almost overnight. Like the number of times I would say things, look, when you're depressed, you have a script that you run in your head over and over again, or at least I do. Everybody's different, but I would frequently say to myself, I hate my freaking life, over and over again. And I started going to the gym, and I was like, hey, I've been in the gym for a week. I also haven't used the word I hate my life in about a week. And I used to do that every single day, multiple times a day. I was like, this gym stuff kind of works. So it really made a tremendous difference in my life. But the other thing was I started going to the gym a little bit later. Now I'd done this as a kid, and I don't know exactly why. I don't understand the science behind it. But part of the reason why you might have asked, do you even lift, bro, is because when I was a kid, when I was younger and going to the gym trying to be fit, I could lift and press and sweat and do all the things that you got to do. And I would get stronger, but I would notice no physical change in my body. Once I hit 30, and I think there's something to do with the muscle maturity, all I had to do was look at a dumbbell and immediately I got bigger. And I was just kind of like going in there because I wanted to fight depression, but also trying to hit personal bests. You kind of set a goal and then you get through it, and it's rewarding. And it's another thing that's going to help fight off depression, my shrink explained to me. So I would go in there and I would try and do a little more every single day, lift a little bit more, maybe crank out another set. I don't know, whatever the case, I would just try and do more. My shrink said, go to the gym and every day try and do more in some way. And that'll give you a sense of accomplishment. And, the cardiovascular exercise will release the same sort of chemicals that these serotonin reuptake inhibitors do, and it's going to make a big difference. So because later on in life, I guess, and maybe you can speak to this, Travis, but you get that muscle maturity, and all of a sudden I got pretty big, pretty fast, or at least faster than anything that had ever happened to me before. And I noticed something when I would go out to sort of like station appearances and stuff. Gym bros would come up to me and ask me how much I pressed and sort of belly up to me, wanting to challenge me in some way, shape, or form. And I realized, I was like, when people see that you've got a little bit of size, it sort of attracts a kind of attention that I've got no interest in. I've got no interest in fighting someone. I've got no interest in squaring off against someone physically, nor do I have any interest in talking about how much I'm deadlifting that week. So for that reason, I would make an effort to kind of like cover up the extra bulk in hoodies at all times. And so that hence you asking, do you even lift, bro?
All these hidden muscles that I had no idea about because you're trying to conceal them, to trying to be a pretend fat kid or something. You're like stuffing your
No, I remember like I had some promo pictures taken, and the guy was like, okay, now we need some without the sweatshirt. What is it? Is it cold all the time? Like, it's Texas, really freaking hot, dude. And I was like, okay. And then those pictures came out, and I was like, that's a bit more meatheady than I was hoping to look in these pictures. But
he's
they
like,
came
you don't
out.
like the tank top?
Yeah, so many people came up to me. They're like, I didn't know you were buff. I was like, I didn't want. Okay, this is weird and uncomfortable. I when I do manage to go to the gym, it is 100% to fight depression. So I don't know a ton about this, but you know the whole. And by the way, if you are dealing with depression, everybody's different, and everyone's going to react to different things in different ways. But I will tell you, nothing bad can come from getting to the point of sweat for 20 minutes a day or so. Like I said, those physical changes, they took a while to come about, but the mental change happened almost overnight. So if you are struggling, please give it a go. It really couldn't hurt, and it could make all the difference in the world. But you know stuff about weightlifting, Travis Golightly. This convicted drug dealer that claims he supplied steroids to Mark Wahlberg. Do you think that's true? There's debates that rage now where it's like, is this guy doing roids or is he natural? Like, it's weird. It's all over Reddit and stuff like that. Have you seen these? Like,
I haven't seen them, but it's one of those things that, when you're Mark Wahlberg, when you're this famous movie star, I would think that you wouldn't even need a convicted drug dealer to get you drugs. I would think that you'd have a ton of doctors who'd be willing to prescribe you pretty much anything that you needed. I mean, that's one of my, I don't know, I don't have any moral issue with it, but I have a real problem thinking that these professional football players are clean. I'm sure they are when it comes time that they have to be drug tested. But, I think any professional athlete is having some help. So do I think Mark Wahlberg could easily get his hands on some stuff? Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure he could get a doctor to prescribe stuff for him. But
he does. And maybe it's a legend. Maybe it's an urban legend. But, I remember, Marky Mark of the Funky Bunch, Mark Wahlberg, and his brother Donnie were supposed to be from the mean streets of Boston and involved in kind of, semi-organized crime and they ran with kind of a thuggy crowd. And the one reason I could imagine that Mark Wahlberg would want to keep it quiet that he was pounding drugs to get his often talked about physique is because he has a very lucrative line of bodybuilding supplements that he sells. So if really he's playing with a corked bat, so to speak, and he's meanwhile selling a training program and selling, like protein powders or whatever the hell is in his line of crap, then that could really, that could be really, really bad for him. When reached for comment, Mark Wahlberg called the claim completely false. Then he combed his back hair, flew into violent rage, and sadly stared at his shriveled testes.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away. Radio 104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you my musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me.
So a little later on in the show, we will talk about how I think texting and other sort of messaging where you're not forced to talk to other people, with your mouth and the English language with which we have been gifted. We'll discuss why texting is something I equate with the downfall of modern society. It might sound a little overly dramatic, but stay with me on this one. We'll also talk about the rudest things that people can do over text. What do you think is a rude way to text, Travis?
The most immediate thought is like an unhappy face or I don't know, like cursing. I don't know. Not replying to a text message. I think I know what it is, and I'm not going to say it unless I think I know what it is. I do. Yeah.
Okay. We'll get into texting yeses and no-nos and texting etiquette. You know what I hate personally? I hate when people text too much. When it's one thing and then this freaking aggravates me. I hate people I hate it when people text too much. Like if they're texting paragraphs, like too long didn't read. What the hell are you doing to me? Like this is not what this form of communication is meant for. If you text me a paragraph, I immediately think it's presumptuous. And the other side goes too. If you have something that could easily have fit into one text message, but you decide to, separate every sentence and then send it and make my phone buzz like 25 separate times when you could have made it buzz once. Oh, for that moment, I hate you. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be my mom, but I hate you.
From now on, if I ever text you, my initial header text is going to be, "Hey bro, can I ask you a question?" I hate it when people ask me if they can ask you a question. They'll be like, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" And I'm like, no, I'll usually, if somebody asks, and I'm kidding, but if somebody's like, "Hey,
no,
can I
people
ask you
do,
a question?" I usually say no and walk away.
People do that all the time. And it's like, what are you going to do? Say no? And I think you're right. You should say no. It's like, can I ask you a question? At what point did you miss out on what accepted social norms were? Huh? Goodbye. All right. Let's do a little bit more news and then we'll get into that later.
Both parties continue to blame the government shutdown on each other to save face.
Right, or in Nancy Pelosi's case, to save what remains of face. Who do you blame? Which side do you blame? Do you think anyway? You're just there for the show. You're not taking
I'm just
a
there
side.
for the show. Let me tell you, my feeling about the whole thing is, leave it shut down. I mean, it's just one of those things that, personally, me politically, I think 90% of the stuff that the federal government does should be left to the states. I mean, that's just how I feel. I'm not. If you disagree, that's fine. I'm not upset about it. It's just my own personal feeling. So the federal government, in my opinion, annoys me because it's like, dude, leave it to the states and let people choose a state that they most identify with or that they want to live in. There's no reason that all 50 states have to have the majority of everything exactly the same. That's the nice thing about having states. So for me, the government shutdown, it's incredible. I love it. Let it happen for 9 months. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. That was the thing. I was like, the government appears to have shut down. And I notice, no difference whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. It's almost like they're unnecessary, and we really don't need to pay them all those tax dollars, all that blood, sweat, and tears that we use to provide income to feed ourselves and our families and provide homes and clothes and education and all the things that it takes to get through life. It's almost like we shouldn't be giving so freaking much of that to the federal government. I'm just going to throw that possibility and that eventuality out there. Call me crazy, but it's almost like they're frivolous with the money that we work so hard for. And I don't recall the last time where it was okay for an employee to call the shots, being like, I know it's your name on the check. I know it's your name on the check that you write every single April, that massive and unpleasant check that you write. I know it's your name on it, and technically that makes you my boss, but I'm just going to peace out of work for a few days and really not give you a solid idea of when we're going to be coming back. Okay, cool. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, people were upset, because, like, national parks were closed. Oh, well, the Statue of Liberty's closed, so, it just ruined our vacation. Well, you know what? Give the Statue of Liberty to the state of New York and let them deal with it. Why does the federal government, and I'm sure there's, like, serious benefits and stuff to the federal government running it that I don't understand, and, that it's one of those things that we could have a back and forth about, and I'm sure there's positives on both sides. However, why the federal government? Just give it to the state of New York and let them deal with it. I mean, I don't understand why the federal government has to be so big. Shut it down.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I'm not naive enough to think that you could completely shut down the federal government forever and there'd be no ramifications. I'm just saying a lot of what they do doesn't seem to be as important as they say it is. So maybe we could scale some stuff back and save some money and, go on with our lives in a more efficient way rather than, like I said, giving them large chunks of our blood, sweat, tears, DNA, and probably firstborn at some stage in the game. Go on. What else is happening?
Today is Donald and Melania Trump's 13th wedding anniversary.
Oh, yeah. Or as Melania called it, Tuesday. What else?
Scientists say adulthood now starts...
Hold on. Do you think there is any legitimacy to this idea that she freaking hates him, and has no... You're not on Twitter, but she's tweeted a whole bunch of stuff out about how great it is to be first lady. She tweeted a picture of the inauguration on the anniversary of it and said, what an amazing day. And none of it did she mention Donald Trump or even show a picture of Donald Trump. It was just, like he was noticeably absent from a lot of what she's been saying. And, you forget, like, on the one hand, you sort of figure anybody that marries Donald Trump, you had an affair with a porn star and you paid her $130,000 to keep quiet. You're Donald Trump. This is what I signed up for. You would imagine that dose of reality would have crept into anybody's consciousness when they make decisions to walk down the aisle with someone like the Cheeto in chief. Here's the thing, though. She's still, I think, probably hardwired, no matter how much she sort of like mentally, sort of intellectually had accepted it. She's still going to be hardwired to emotionally be furious at the whole sort of Stormy Daniels thing. So I got to imagine I think she's hopping freaking mad. Would you like it if you were with someone that you loved, that you had a child with, and there are papers running reports every single day about a porn star that you had an affair with right around the time of the birth of your kid together? No matter how well adjusted you are, no matter how much you don't believe them, that's going to wind up stinging, I think. There's just no way around it.
It's one of those things that, I don't want to try and like sound negative about the whole relationship thing. I'm single. I'm not married. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have any kids. So a lot of people think, I probably don't have the right to have an opinion about stuff like marriage, which is fine. People can have that opinion. But let me say that the majority of married people that I know probably don't love the person that they're married to. I'm not saying they're cheating, but I know plenty of people who are like, I'm like, dude, you love your wife, or, talking to her, you love your husband, and they're like, I like my life. I love my kids. I like that we have money, but do I love the person I'm married to? Not really.
Oh, that's grim and depressing.
It's real life, though. I mean, I don't know too many people who are married that are happy about being married. That's just my experience. Maybe other people have better experiences or happier friends. I don't know. It's awkward.
Yeah, incredibly awkward, especially if you're one of those friends that Travis has that's married that's currently listening to this show with your spouse.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So how and why is texting leading to the downfall of modern civilization? I have a theory, and it sounds a little cockeyed, I know when I say it like that, but stay with me on this one, and I have a sneaking suspicion that by the end of our conversation, you and I will be in agreement on this one in just a little bit. Texting is ruining everything. Right now, though, let's finish up what remains of the news. What else is going on in the world? Travis, go lightly.
Scientists say adulthood now starts at age 24.
Great. Now all millennials are going to want a reaching adulthood trophy. 24, you say?
24 years old.
One Judge Roy Moore would beg to differ.
Looks like 12 to me.
Oh, my God. At what age did you start feeling like an adult, or has that yet to kick in?
No, it hasn't happened yet, and I know people are going to be like, "That's not true." But I don't feel like an adult. I joke that I'm an adult child because I don't have any of the responsibilities of an adult. Like I said, I'm single. No wife, no girlfriend, no kids. You know, my job is great. I love my job, but it's not an adult. It's an adult job, but it's not like, you know, I live on a sailboat. I don't have a house, so I don't have to. It's weird. I definitely have a child life.
But you pay a mortgage for that sailboat, right?
It automatically comes out. So I mean, I'm out of my bank account, so I don't ever see it. I don't even know how much it is.
Sorry, you hear that?
I do hear that. You really did swallow that squeaky toy.
No, I didn't.
No.
Wait on the new bacon ball. For those that don't know, I do this show from my home studio. I have this new thing where I'm trying not to go into work as much as possible. I got this home studio. That's right. You like it too, Millhouse.
Oh my God.
I have this
awesome
home studio that I work out of. I got it built a little after Christmas, and it's great. It's changed my life. It's made things infinitely easier. There's some radio stations, like I'm on like 25 of them. I can't literally go into all of them all the time. So the vast majority of my work I like to do from home as much as possible. And one of the great benefits of working from home is that I get to have Millhouse, the Mets rally puppy, sit by me every single day. But his package arrived from Chewy.com today. Not a sponsor, but freaking amazing. I wish they would sponsor the show. And in it was included his new bacon-scented ball, which he just rediscovered. Hence the squeaking. There you go. There's a little peek behind the curtain into my world.
I'm so jealous.
World.
Oh, I love Millhouse.
Millhouse is the absolute bestie best. Now, interesting, I would say that my first real taste of adulthood came when I got my first dog as a grown-up. People have pets as kids, but when I got my first dog as a grown-up, Bud, the Cocker Spaniel, I think something very important happened. He taught me about love, and he taught me about responsibility. You know, having a responsibility to something else other than me, something that I put before me, something where I had to go, well, no, I can't do whatever the hell I want to because Bud's waiting for me, or Bud can't be left at home too long, or Bud has to go for a walk. And then the amount of love he gave back, which is just a never-ending supply. If you're a dog, dogs are the greatest things on the face of the planet. I would say my first little tippy toe into adulthood happened when I first got a dog, because it was responsibility, and it was also learning about, love in an adult way, not just that blind love that you're born with when you're born into a family and you don't know any better than loving your parents. But There you go. I think
that's smart. That's really smart, because I don't think I've ever loved. Like, I've never loved. I don't know that anyone's ever loved me. Like, I mean, you look at my life, you don't think I'm an adult. Surely not.
I think you're an adult who's
in denial about being an adult.
No, not in denial. No, I think you're an adult who has chosen his own path in the world, and
the path of a child.
I think there's a very good way in which you are not adult. And when most people, and we talk about this all the time on the show, when most people get out of high school or whatever it is, or graduate college, you are filled with ambition and youthful exuberance, and you have that degree in your hand, or you've got that fire in your belly, or you've got whatever it is you got going for you that makes you say to yourself, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to bring this world to its knees, I'm going to make this life my bitch, and I'm going to live it 100 million %. That's what people think when they first eject themselves into the world as a young adult or someone that's verging on adulthood. And then what happens? Well, conspicuously, some of those dreams don't come true. And conspicuously, some of those dreams maybe take a little longer to work themselves out than you thought they would. Or the worst possibility of all, you achieved that dream and it wasn't what you hoped. But remember that version of you that came out of college or came out of high school that had stars in your eyes and you were ready to go out and just freaking do it, whatever it was? That version of you probably cared little to nothing about politics. You might have paid some attention to elected officials. You might have listened to your parents talk about politics, your teachers talk about politics. But did you think one of those elected officials made a difference in your daily life? No, you did not, because you were your own person and you were going to make your way in this world. And here's the thing. I find with failures, with disappointments, with things not working out the way you wanted them to work out, that's when people start looking around going, how come it's not as good as I hoped it would be? Well, it can't possibly be my fault. It might be someone else's fault. And maybe you didn't do this, but I know I did for a little bit. I remember thinking to myself at one point, I've got to move back to England where I grew up, because there's no way I can be happy in this version of America. There's no way I can achieve the things I want to achieve in this version of America. I've got to move back to England. And then I realized I was telling myself a sob story, the way a lot of people do. And I also realized I started caring about politics when things didn't fall in line the way I had expected them to fall in line. So I think in that way, Travis Golightly, you have refused to grow up in a very healthy way where your life is your own and you accept responsibility and blame and glory for the things that go right in your life. And you haven't necessarily become encumbered by all the things that other people let tie them down. So in some ways, in terms of having kept that youthful optimism and the idea that anything is possible and you can go out and make this world your bitch, you have failed to grow up, but it's in the best way possible.
I kind of think that if your shrink's listening, he's probably like rubbing his hands together and thinking, I've got to get my hands on this one. He's like, this is the challenge I've been waiting for my entire life. This is my white whale.
I don't necessarily think of you as a whale. The sit-ups have been paying off.
I've been trying hard.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I did at one point when I was about 30, and I talk about my shrink a lot. I really only went to my shrink for a few years, and it was in my late 20s and early 30s. But I talk about him every once in a while, and one of the things that I mentioned, and I might have mentioned in the past, was this sense of adulthood. I remember, the dog aside, that was just a tippy toe into the world of adulthood, but I remember asking him, hey, I just now I'm starting to feel like a grown-up. I'm like 31. Why is it taking so long? Is there something wrong with me? Do I have like failure to launch? Is there, is there some sort of infantile part of my mind that has not successfully matured? And he's like, nah, you're about on track. He was like, most people don't start to actually feel like a grown-up until they're around 35. He was like, so he was like, you might actually be a little bit ahead of schedule. I was like, no kidding. But yeah, now apparently scientists say adulthood starts at 24. So make of that what you will. What else, Travis?
Donald Trump once asked Stormy Daniels to spank him with an issue of Forbes magazine that had his face on the cover. Breathe.
Oh, it's so good.
Breathe.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's such a, A lot of people are going to say that's absolutely freaking ridiculous. If there was a copy of Forbes magazine with me on the cover, I'm not even into spanking. But if I had that, I would absolutely have a female spank me with a rolled up copy of it, or I would spank her, or maybe a little bit of both would be satisfying. I don't know, and maybe we should stop going down this route. But like,
it's a slippery slope. I just caution you here.
Yeah. Aside from the extramarital affair, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Now, what he should have been doing is getting his beautiful, loving Melania, who had just given birth to his child, to spank him with a copy of rolled up Forbes magazine. But no, he went into the arms of a porn star to do it instead. And a lot of people would just use it as this fact as a piece of low-hanging comedic fruit and probably hit it with a punchline like, oh, well, even back then he had his head up his ass, but not me. I am above that.
I like what you did there.
Yeah, thank you very much. I managed to feel liltingly superior while not being superior at all. Okay, go on.
The sun only came out for a total of 6 minutes last month in Moscow.
Well, let's just pray that being enveloped in unrelenting darkness didn't suddenly prompt anyone in Russia to develop a drinking problem or perhaps a behavioral problem. It's a good thing everyone in Russia is so normal. Otherwise, I might worry about that lack of daylight. All right, let us do this. Let's talk a little bit about texting and the do's and don'ts of texting. What are the rudest things you can do when you text, Travis? And this isn't necessarily texting what's in the body of the text, but your rudest texting behaviors. Because no matter how good you think you are when it comes to texting, there's probably something that you're doing that makes other people crazy. What do you do?
Do you want me to leave it for you, or do you want me to tell you the cardinal sin that I think you're going to say?
Go for it.
I think it's replying with the letter K.
Oh. That is actually, hold on, I've got a list here. Let's see if that is on the list. That's number 4. Oh. It's not their version of a cardinal sin, but just replying to a text with a lowercase k. It feels dismissive. It feels like so ambivalent and like whatever. I don't know.
That's my biggest texting sin. There's 2 of them that I do. I'll do that, and then the other one is there's 3 of them. I'll do that. I'll just stop replying to text messages. Once you've lost my interest, it's nothing against you. I'm just bored, and I have ADD. Well, I don't really have ADD, but I kind of think I do. So it's one of those things that I'm so busy. Once you've lost my interest, I'm going to look away from my phone and just completely forget about it. So I won't reply. And then the other one is I intentionally leave my read receipts on, so that I saw the message, and then I'll just not reply.
Really? See, that's that's a tough one. So this is why I think, and by the way, the other things are, sorry, Millhouse is going crazy for bacon balls. All right, Millhouse, you hear this? Let's get you on the radio.
Is he eating it?
No, he's trying to. Oh.
You put him up there, and now he's silent the whole time.
Come on, you bark all the... There we go.
Oh, he's such a good boy.
You're on the radio. Good stuff. Texting on a date is number 1. Texting at a movie theater is number 2. Texting while you're out to dinner with other people, that's no good. But this is why I think texting is destroying the fabric of our society. It is destroying our ability to think on our feet. Now, you and I come from a day and age where we had to have conversations over the phone, in person, and we had to think. What texting is giving everybody the ability to do is edit themselves 20, 30 times before they send a text. And that's great. It's good to be thought out and measured in what you are going to say and what you think about the world. But at the same time, we have to have this ability to relate to one another as human beings, because otherwise, when we meet each other in the streets, there's going to be a breakdown of communication. And this, my friend, I'm not even freaking kidding. If we grow up with a generation of people that grew up texting as their main form of communication, as opposed to relating face to face, eye to eye, word to word, this is how freaking wars are going to get started. So whenever possible, I appreciate the expediency of texting. I think that texting is a wonderful thing. It's my primary form of communication, but whenever possible, sit down with a person that you care about, have a conversation, look in their eyes, and enjoy that incredible thing that is being a human being with the power of speech. Because I promise you, the less we have of it, the more valuable it's going to become.